cane, surrounded by an hexagon. Smithing, meaning Tubal Cain taught them how to shape and fashion swords. So generally when Santa Claus came to people's land, it was with weapons. And at times they left those weapons to the indigenous people to finish each other off. And so Cain, Khan, King, Cohen, all was synonymous with basically warlike beings. They brought war to the planet, taught how to war with one another, and then how to do that based on how much we favor them. Meaning that humanity has basically been serving out a prison sentence because they are worshiping or on a warship, utilizing their energy to attack others. Many of those people are beings they don't even understand or know about. So we find here an ancient symbolism of Raman, which of course is the ram, synonymous with Mars, the red or red shield. Raman with his axe, once again with the sticks shaped like the hexagram. And you find him being toted about by his cherub or four wind energies or four energies. And so you find this symbolism starting all over the world. And of course, the major thing not to miss here is the horns, because this gets us to understand why they always use this horn symbolism and why Venus is holding that horn in her hand and was said to birth the first king or Khan onto this planet. Sounds like King Kong. This, of course, is Hern the Hunter, which comes from the Norse lore. This is the same individual, synonymous with Santa Claus, but you see the horns here. And then you see, of course, the Santa Claus motif, and then the evergreen, or the leaves of fall, the fallen. We find Puck or Pu or Pan, which is, of course, the key to the whole papacy, and the circle of Cirque. You find the Druids or the Druze dancing around and evoking Pan, who also has the horns. And, of course, another horn here. We find Moses in the same motif with the beard and the horns. We find Jupiter, Ammon, which is where they get the word amen from, here with the horns, because this was the religion that was taken from Egypt, which was a slave religion of slave gods. Something that you would learn in prison or prism. And that's why even in modern times, when a person goes to prison, they throw them the Bible and they ask them to call upon Agatha demon to defeat the demons that they've already incurred in the physical reality. Big thing about this today is people get real now. Like you get adult, you get adept, you know exactly what's going on. And you start to shape yourself up. You patch up a lot of your holes, especially in your aura. And then you start to build energy from there. And it's magnificent. Okay, what you'll find here again is Odin. You see the dogs. Now, this is why you have to keep locking onto the symbolism, because as it changed, these wolves, are actually Sirius, also known as Big Five or the dog star, which is under the symbol of the pentagram because it's under the control of the pentagram. And of course, that means that people are worshiping something to do with Sirius, or worshiping the dogs or the canine, and also worshiping the Ka, in a sense that the Ka or the vehicle or the covenant that contained the actual covenant with the canine. So canine is a very deep symbolism because it's actually a cannonball, a cannonball. Also, Canaan ball is the term. And what this really means is a person who will eat flesh. It doesn't just mean a person who will eat another person. And this is why, I was trying to tell people earlier, especially in the year, that, you really want to get away from the meat because there's a karmic hold to it. Car is as in carnivore, as in carne, that when you eat the meat or you eat flesh and you eat blood, or you do the Eucharist, eat of my flesh, drink of my blood, then you actually incur the actual binding to the God. So remember, this how it was looked at by the ancients is that all the animals that existed here at the time were part of us or our brothers and sisters in some way. So to eat them would be in fact like eating yourself. So remember, this is a very important thing, especially as you go into 2013, to make sure you don't get caught up with these guys. This is the symbol that's on the gate of Buckingham Palace. This is shot from underneath so that you can see that they worship Baal, who's also synonymous with Lord, the Lord God. And the symbolism again is replete. You see here, this is basically a Sri Yantra. You see the fleur-de-lis, but you also see under this what is a huge crown, which most people don't see, Baal with his horns here. So it lets you know that, and of course this unicorn I found out is not actually a unicorn. It's an encrypted symbol of the horn god also, and because there was never any unicorns, but what there were is entities that had just one horn, which were synonymous with the cyclopean beings. We find again Alexander the Great later on becoming called the Great Two-Horn. You find here Osiris with Apis on his back. And the reason why this motif is done like this, for people who think Osiris is something else besides what he's not, Osiris is connected to Sirius and of course connected to Orion, even by the way the pyramids are positioned. But you find Apis on the back because he is the horn god. We find here modern Saturnalian Roman motif, which of course is where the Saturnalia comes from. The axe is then replaced with a scythe because this is after it took a Cuthan transformation. This is of course the Cuthians, which were the individuals coming out of Samaria, the Cuthites, or also called Scythians. And all those words to cut and to scythe mean to cut someone off. And of course, as you can see with the axe symbolism, everything about them is creating the sword and creating war. So that's how you can sum it up really fast, is that once you leave duality and stop warring with other individuals that are just caught up in this and start to really see what's going on, you expand, because that's what you haven't been doing. Of course, we see these rays coming out of the head, but these rays are really horns. We find here, again, another complete explanation of the Saturnalian Brotherhood. You find the merging now of the symbol of the Sri Yantra and the swastika, which is also seen in the symbol of the Raelian movement. But this is proof, again, that these symbols are synonymous with one another, and these symbols belong to people who are counterfeiting the creation and have been doing so for a long time, because they have taken the knowledge of the original priestcraft, which is basically astronomy and astrology, and have brought it into the external world for all of what it's capable of doing, and began to triumph or appear to triumph over individuals because of what they keep inventing and showing people that they have control of and over. We find the symbol here again, the connecting of the swastika along with the connecting of the Sri Yantra as being a very modern but very occult and revealing symbol of the new, actually it's not new, but the emerging of this brotherhood. We find here Ophiuchus, which is the 13th sign. We'll get into how the number 13 connects to Venus in just a moment, but we'll find the 13th sign of Ophiuchus was all of a sudden entered this year. If everyone remembers, I think, was it this year or late last year, but what they all of a sudden, after having all this astrological knowledge for centuries with the Greeks and the Egyptians and everyone else, all of a sudden they can't figure out that there's 13 constellations and then decide to announce it. So you got to watch the symbolism. What they're saying is that they want to reveal the one who's bearing the serpent. This again is Kukulkan. This again is even Orion, creating another constellation that looks like Orion, the bearded white man, as you see, returning, which is of course the 13th sign of the zodiac, is supposed to be the end of the Mayan calendar. We find here Orion also in that same motif as a giant. Now, again, as I was explaining earlier, that the mess up in the numbers is September, October, November, December. Of course, Sept means 7, Oct means 8, Nov means 9, and Dec means 10. The 10 is synonymous with the Alpha and the Omega, or IAO, which is the symbol that they went under, the Agatha demon, again, is Abraxas, 365 days. As you see, Abrax, there's an axe inside of that word. This, again, is none other than the Messiah mythos, which has infected the world. So what you find here is to break down the numbers really briefly about why they chose these particular dates, because obviously they don't line up with the precession of Venus. For anyone that understands, the precession of Venus and when it will make its next cycle, what you'll find here is that it's not at 11/11 and it's not on the 21st. And so it leads us to asking, well, why are they using those particular numbers? And of course, what we find here is another code. And we love to crack code. So here we are with 12, which is 3, 21, which is 3, the 20, which should not be counted because it is the year, meaning that this is something that goes on every year. So to count the year is frivolous. So you need to count the day. So you get a 12 again, which is 3. And then you get the time, 11/11, the digital time code, which means a door or a daleth or a scythe or opening up a door, which is how the actual daleth symbol is shaped. It's also shaped like a scythe within itself. And so what it's used to do is to cleave open the womb or the door of the reality. So you'll find that this number 13 is related to something secret because, of course, before the door opens and you don't know what's on the other side. Another thing is if you take the actual geometric correspondence to numbers, you'll be able to put stuff together. And of course, you see 3 and 4, a triangle and a square. A triangle on top of a square is the universal symbol for a house. Remember, you drew that as a kid. And then 3 plus 4 equals 7, which means when the house or the prison is built, you see if you add another triangle here, it makes a complete prism. When the prism is built, there is 7 colors then, or 7 rays of division that emit from it. Okay. As we see here, the symbol of the daleth, which is, of course, in Kabbalah, which means the door or the pathway or to enter. And this symbol was, even in the late times, the exact same symbol. This is also, of course, the number 7. And this was used, if you held the handle here, it was like a cleaver. It could be used to chop open or bust open something. And the reason why this symbolism was used is because when it was said that when the child came out of the womb, that it had to ram the walls of the mother's womb in order to, which is shaped like a fallopian tube, is also shaped like a ram, but it would have to ram the wall in order to knock the wall down, which is, of course, the cervix or the cervix, if you understand the etymology behind that, and then go through that to come into the physical world. So it was always seen that if you had one of these tools, then it was easier for you to get through things. Of course, the numerical number again is 4, which is synonymous with door or gate. Here's another way to begin to take apart the symbolism by using numbers like you find here 1, which is obviously a straight line, and 3, which is a triangle, and then putting those together, and then you create what is this symbol, which is basically when you remove the edges here and you look at just what's in the center here is the eye in the pyramid, which actually this 13 means hidden. So this is why there's no 13th floor in most buildings. There's no 13th owl on most airplanes. You have the whole symbolism with Jesus or Nehushtan, who's the brazen serpent himself, with 12 disciples. So Jesus and 12 disciples equal 13. We find 12 signs of the zodiac again, but then adding that one hidden sign, Ophiuchus, which is 13. So you can see it has a lot to do with the synchronicities with Venus and how that procession of the number 13 comes into play. And just to be very clear about the procession of Venus as far as the numbers, you'll find that the numbers 5, 8, and 13 ring out with Venus, and then Venus orbits the sun 13 times in 8 years. Venus traces out a pentagram, which has 5 points, of course, in the night sky, and then every precession of 8 years, so that's 8 plus 5, which actually equals 13. And then it takes 584 days for Venus to go around and catch up with the Earth, because we're also on orbit. And then 584 times 5 gives us 2,920. And then 2,920 divided by 5 gives us 365 days in our year. So you can see Venus is used as a cipher, and that's why it was also known as Lucifer. To encode the light, or to actually decode, the light, as 5 can decode the 6. This is getting good. This, of course, is Hern the hunter, which comes from the Norse lore. This is the same individual, synonymous with Santa Claus, but you see the horns here, and then you see, of course, the Santa Claus motif, and then the evergreen, or the leaves of fall, the fallen. Cain, surrounded by an hexagon. Smithing, meaning Tubal Cain taught them how to shape and fashion swords. So generally, when Santa Claus came to people's land, it was with weapons. And at times, they left those weapons to the indigenous people to finish each other off. And so Cain, Khan, King, Cohen, all was synonymous with basically warlike beings. They brought war to the planet, taught how to war with one another, and then how to do that based on how much we favor them. Meaning that humanity has basically been serving out a prison sentence because they are worshiping or on a worship, utilizing their energy to attend energies or for energies. And so you find this symbolism starting all over the world. And of course, the major thing not to miss here is the horns, because this gets us to understand why they always use this horn symbolism and why Venus is holding that horn in her hand and was said to birth the first king or Khan onto this planet. Sounds like King Kong. Others, many of those people or beings they don't even understand or know about. So we find here an ancient symbolism of Raman, which of course is the ram, synonymous with Mars, the red or red shield. Raman with his axe, once again with the sticks shaped like the hexagram. And you find him being toted about by his cherub or four